coming back to the trust, trusted advisor, trusted partner, what is this? I mean, obviously, people, we have heard about them, the story, emotionally connecting with the stories. So what's your thought on it? Because a lot of the viewers have, even some of our clients always ask, some of the communities have asked, stories are very enticing, and they really change the way how we perceive the thing. So what's your thought on that, Gary?
Yeah, well, that comes back to our positioning as the trusted provider, and I'll get to the stories in a second, but we have to understand how we are seen by our clients, because it used to be that we could go out there and if you were an authority, then being an authority was all you needed to be. You're the authority in this area, and therefore I will buy what you're selling. Now, that was obviously quite some years ago when people accepted the level of authority that you might have had. Then, of course, we said, okay, we're not just accepting you as an authority anymore, and we had to reposition ourselves as an expert. And so for many years, we've been saying, yes, I'm an expert on this, I'm an expert on that. Now, of course, with the internet, everyone's an expert these days. Everyone's got a lot of access to knowledge, and if they're not an expert, they believe they are because they can read the stuff and they can learn stuff. And so to be an expert wasn't enough. Probably the last 5-10 years, being an expert isn't enough.
Was that, sorry, just on that note, was that how much 10,000 hours then you would say as an expert, isn't it?
That's right. The 10,000 hours, and now, you don't need 10,000 hours. You need a few clicks on Google and you find stuff and you go, oh, I'm an expert apparently. So, and so whilst we are still experts, we had to shift our positioning, and then we started to think of ourselves as problem solvers. And when we were a problem solver, what that meant was we had to make sure that we understood the client's business. We had to understood the client's needs. We would talk to them. We would listen to what they had to say. We would diagnose, etc. Our job was to understand our clients and to then solve their problems. Even that now has moved beyond that. What we now need to be is a teacher and a learner. We are still an expert, we are still doing problem solving, but more than ever before, we have to position ourselves as teachers and learners. Because in the past, understanding our clients was what we had to do. Now what we have to do as being a teacher is we have to help our clients understand themselves. Because right now, people are so confused and so uncertain. They need to understand themselves. They need to understand the world, how it's working at the moment. They need to understand what their competitors are doing. And they need to understand, okay, in all that environment, what are my options? So our job is to help our clients by teaching them that. And in order to teach them, we have to learn that ourselves. So more than ever before, our expertise is useful to us, but not enough. And so we have to be able to learn from our clients. We have to go in with a very fresh set of eyes to learn what's going on in the world around us, what competitors are doing, and then we can actually go in and essentially teach our clients, this is where you're at, this is what's happening around you, this is what your clients are currently doing now, and your competitors are currently doing now. And if your competitors are over here and you're still back here, then you've got a lot to make up, even just to become competitive with them. You mentioned about the stories, Pravin. I'm more than happy to continue with that. Please. If you like.
Just a bit, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So what that means is we have to be able to give our clients a story about what's going on in the world. Where am I at? What's happening around me? And I think there are 3 key stories. And when I work with people and work with clients, I help them to fashion these 3 stories. The 3 stories that we need to be able to understand and to be able to tell people. The first one is the story of the world. In other words, what's happening in the world generally. So we have to be able to, now we all watch the news and we're all very aware of some of the politics and some of the things that are happening around the world, but we need to be able to explain that very clearly to our clients in terms of what that means for them. So what's happening in the world that is relevant to them. The second thing we need to be able to do is to explain to our clients that we understand the story of their world. In other words, to be able to say to them, I think this is what's happening in your world based on what I understand from your industry and your competitors. So we need to be able to tell the story of the world and also the story of their world, what challenges they're facing. And like I said before, sometimes right now we are explaining to clients what challenges they're facing, what problems they're facing that is different to what they even know themselves. because a lot of clients, they're very confused and they need help to understand what the problems are that they're facing that they're not even aware of. The third story that we need to be able to explain to clients is our world. In other words, where have you come from? What is your expertise, but also how did you develop this expertise? So what's the story of your world? What's the story of your journey in all of this? How did you get to this point? How do we utilize your knowledge in order to help me? So what we're trying to do here, of course, is to combine all three of them. This is you, this is me, and this is the way the world is at the moment. And if we can combine those three things together, then we will maximize that opportunity that sits in the middle of that in order to get clients' business. You know, there's a saying, Prabin, which is, we're all very uncertain about the future. There's a really good saying, which is, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And that's when we create these three stories, that's what we're doing. We're creating opportunities, but we're creating great clarity for clients about what the future holds for them and what their next best steps are.
Absolutely. I just loved it, you know, what you just said there, the world, their world and our world. So, you know, most likely consultants or, you know, those, they just focus on their stuff, but, you know, again, putting the clients in the central is everything, is a key, isn't it? And understanding the situation, understanding the context. That's a great point, Gary. And those viewers who are watching this, obviously, you know, from a number of social medias, feel free to share, like, or, you know, any of your friends, feel free to pass these videos.